Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday, good friends and neighbors. Great to see you this morning. It is Friday, January 10. Can you believe it? And here we go with another Bill Press show, rounding up the news of the day, wherever it's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe, telling you all about it and taking your calls and getting your comments online. Yesterday, President Obama making good on a promise that he made in his State of the Union address to create what he calls promise zones, areas of economic activity where federal agencies work with local and state agencies to try to turn around the economy in 5 different areas of the country were selected as the first promise zones. They are in Los Angeles, San Antonio, Texas, Philadelphia, the Choctaw Indian Nation in Oklahoma, and southeastern Kentucky. Again, launched yesterday at the White House, but most of the attention, of course, was on Trenton, New Jersey, where Governor Christie came out and apologized for the actions of his staff in closing down the George Washington Bridge, 2 lanes of it, in primetime traffic for 4 days in a row last September. He insists still that he knew nothing about it, but he fired his deputy chief of staff. He fired his chief political director, and he vowed to cooperate with ongoing investigations by the State Assembly and by the U.S. Attorney's Office. And, of course, he once led that U.S. Attorney's Office. It ain't over yet, but for the time being, Christie has escaped to survive again and fight another political battle in the days ahead. All of that coming up. You're going to want to talk about it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Our news roundup right here Friday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. you could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
On your TV and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
I'm sorry. I'm Chris Christie. Hey, what do you say, everybody? It's Friday. You bet. Friday, January 10. Here we go with a Friday edition of The Bill Press Show. Our favorite day around the... What's that?
I was just laughing at Cyprian's Friday dance.
Oh, his Friday.
Cyprian has a little Friday dance.
Is that right?
Yeah.
He's happy to see Friday get here, too?
You know it.
So am I, I'm telling you. And this is our first, I don't know whether we can handle this, our first 5-day week of the year.
I'm exhausted.
I am too already. Hey, great to see you this morning. What do you say? You're looking good. Thanks for joining us as we boom out to you live all across this great land of ours. It's great to just stretch out coast to coast and have a chance to visit with you this morning about what the hell's going on here in Washington, D.C. That's where we're located, right on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Come see us when you come to the nation's capital. Just come up to the Capitol, keep walking about 6 blocks, and you'll hear us. There we are. We're here in Washington, D.C., bringing you the news from here, our nation's capital, around the country and around the globe, and giving you a chance to sound off about it, which we know you want to do early in the morning. Get it off your chest early on by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS, or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. It's good to sign up for Twitter and Facebook so you get our communications and my tweets from the White House all day long. You never know what's going to pop up, right? I will column, we send it out.
Yeah.
Anything we see that's interesting, we send it out there. So become a member of the club.
I will say, if you're on Twitter, you have to go follow us at BP Show. We put out a lot of vital information.
Yeah.
But more than that, nobody tweets, and I mean this, nobody tweets as well as you do from the White House. Because when you're at the White House, a lot of people tweet, they just say what Carney just said, and it's just verbatim stuff. But you give real perspective on what's going on.
Unfortunately,
it's great.
Unfortunately, I use a lot of obscenity at the White House.
There's
Understandably,
certain words that we cannot say on the radio that you can say on Twitter.
BS is a favorite of mine from the White House. But that gives me an outlet. See, what I want to do is shout it out. Since I can't shout it out, I tweet it out.
Good.
Great pictures, too, from the White House.
Once in a while, some pictures from down there. So anyhow, there you go. Right. Sign up. Coming to you live this morning on your local Progressive Talk radio station. Yes, Progressive Talk Radio is alive and well and doing great, and we are proud and very happy and grateful to be there with you and grateful to you for being there for us and supporting your local Progressive Talk radio station. You don't know how lucky you are if you've got one. A lot of communities have lost them. And we're also, of course, on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV, our video stream. You got it. The team sounding off here already this morning. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Good morning, guys.
Friday.
Good morning. Happy Friday. It's been an exciting week.
I know. It has been a busy week. Busy week. Yeah, indeed. Lots going on.
Yeah.
From Bob Gates to stuff down at the White House and Trenton, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Being the eye of the storm. Alicia Cruz is standing by here to take your calls. Good morning, Alicia. At 866-55-PRESS again. And, yes, Cyprian Bolding with his Friday dance, our videographer.
There he goes.
Right. Back on the job. So a lot of news also still out of Colorado. I read yesterday with these pot stores opening up and people lining up to buy the pot legally for the first time just for recreational use. They ran out. A couple of stores ran out of product. They just cleaned the shelves, right? Nothing left. It's just like walking into a 7-Eleven, shelves are bare.
Yeah.
Empty. Right?
Crazy.
That's how crazy it is. And it's sort of sweeping the nation. Charles Barkley on Headline News the other day admitting that he'd been smoking pot. And here's the most serious thing that happened to him.
It didn't do anything, and this was like when I was much younger. It didn't do anything to make me want to eat potato chips. I couldn't get to. That's how they had those Lay's.
Do you blame it for any of the weight issues that you've had? Maybe Nancy Grace is correct here.
No. I didn't get fat from just eating potato chips. I had a lot of other bad stuff too.
How many points are in Lay's potato chips? That's a big question.
Well, they got that commercial. You just can't eat one. That's how they came up with that commercial. After smoking pot.
Is that how Lay's came up with that commercial?
Must have been.
Bet you can't eat just one?
Must have been.
You know, we all had the munchies from smoking pot.
Sure.
Yeah, come on. Let's face
Charles
it.
Barkley's on the Weight Watchers program. He looks better, but like his last big endorsement deal was for Taco Bell. He had a big Taco Bell endorsement deal. So like, it wasn't just potato chips making him big.
Yeah, we got it.
You know what they used to call him when he played, because he was always sort of a chunky guy, is they used to call him the round mound of rebound.
No way.
Yeah, he big.
Oh, and it was all based on
He was big.
Lay's potato chip.
That's it.
All right. Yes, indeed. Through the morning here, but we got Susan Paige from the Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. A little bit later this hour, the president of the Federal Government Employees Union, AFGE, David Cox, will be here in studio with us. Times are tough for federal employees. He's going to tell us all about it. And we'll go to the movies with Washington Post movie critic Ann Hornaday, and Christie rolls out his big apology. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
A couple of other stories making news. Have you seen The Wolf of Wall Street yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, I haven't seen it either. I'm supposed to see it this weekend. But
I've heard bad things about it.
I've heard mixed things, but the one thing that I take away from it is it's a full 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But
so,
there is...
You know what? I'm not going to see it.
There is a scene
Seriously,
that a lot of people are talking about.
I am not going to see it.
There's a scene in the movie that a lot of people are talking about. Leonardo DiCaprio plays the star Jordan Belfort on Quaaludes. He's on drugs, and apparently Jordan Belfort himself was on set to tell Leonardo DiCaprio and to teach him how to act when you're on Quaaludes, because Leonardo has never actually done those drugs. The shooting involved him writhing around on the floor, and it was so bad that DiCaprio had to have chiropractic work afterwards because of all the pain that it caused.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Then he would have been better off taking the drugs.
He should have just taken the drugs.
Right.
Our friend Anthony Bourdain is getting back into the restaurant business.
What do you mean? He's the star of CNN now.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he hasn't been in a
number one
restaurant.
rated show on CNN.
That's true. He hasn't been in the restaurant game for a long time, but it sort of leaked out yesterday. He's getting into the retail and restaurant game. He's planning a massive market in New York City that's going to focus on what he calls international street food. Quoting Bourdain, he is gathering some of the greatest chefs in the world and putting them into one space in New York City.
You know what? Brilliant.
It's very, very smart.
Brilliant.
They don't have a name yet.
He ought to take the best of the street chefs, the best of the, truck, what are they?
Food trucks?
Food trucks. And put them all in one place.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. It doesn't have a name yet, but they said they could call it Anthony Bourdain World Market.
I'd go for it.
Sell out, cash in, man.
By the way, I just have to say, I was at Johnny's on the Half Shell here in Washington last night.
Yeah, sure.
Johnny's on the Half Shell, right on Capitol Hill, and really fine
Excellent.
food. Excellent.
And one other quick story.
Grits.
I'm a sucker for shrimp and grits.
I am too.
We were just talking about Colorado. Colorado recently legalized pot, and now the state is more liberal than Amsterdam in a couple of different ways. You can buy more weed legally in Denver than in Amsterdam, 1 ounce versus 5 grams. You can legally grow weed in Denver, but you can't in Amsterdam. Denver will let you smoke weed on the porch, and in Amsterdam you have to be indoors. You can buy weed brownies, cookies, space cake, cannabis lollipops. Those aren't legal in Amsterdam, and you can give weed as a gift in Colorado, which you can't do in Amsterdam.
The new Amsterdam.
Like everyone thinks of Amsterdam as the pot smoker's paradise. Colorado's got them beat.
And the real new birthday gift.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a hell of a birthday cake.
But you have to be in Colorado to get consume the birthday gift.
That's right.
Right. Second home in Colorado. The second home market in Colorado is going to boom. You watch. Indeed, it was, you got to admit, a bravura performance yesterday. For 107 minutes, Christie stood at the podium with one of the most, I don't know, what's the word for it? It's certainly interesting, exciting, captivating performances by any politician that I have seen. Certainly one that's who's in trouble. And we saw a Christie. I hope you got a chance to watch the whole thing. If not, I hope you got a chance to watch some clips of it. And I'm sure you've heard clips of it. That we saw a Christie we have never seen before. This was not the in-your-face bully, you stupid idiot, Christie. This was a contrite, an apologetic, a heartbroken, a betrayed. I might even use the word humble. That's really a contradiction in terms when it comes to Christie. Christie that we saw, he apologized, and then he said, I've taken certain actions. I have fired my deputy chief of staff. He wouldn't even talk to the woman. This is a woman, he says, gave the orders, Bridget Ann Kelly, and never told him about it. And when he asked his staff if they knew anything about it, she did not come forward. So he fired her. And he also fired his chief political consultant, a guy named Bill Stepien, whom he had slated to become the next Republican state chairman of New Jersey, and said, don't even bother because we're not going to support you and just get out of my life, basically. And then he also got in the car and motorcaded over to Fort Lee, New Jersey to meet with Mayor Mark Sokolich, the man whom he apparently or allegedly or whatever, his staff certainly punished, I guess is the word, by thought they were punishing him by closing the bridge. In fact, they were just hurting a lot of people. Let's hear first what he said and then talk about what it all means. I mean, Christie, again, he opened up with a big apology.
I come out here to this office where I've been many times before, and I come out here today to apologize to the people of New Jersey. I apologize to the people of Fort Lee, and I apologize to the members of the state legislature.
And did I know anything about it ahead of time? Hell no. Christie.
I had no knowledge or involvement in this issue, in its planning or its execution, and I am stunned.
And as far as his aides betraying him, here he is.
I am heartbroken that someone who I permitted to be in that circle of trust for the last 5 years betrayed my trust.
But Christie said they may have done it. I may not have known about it, but still, blame me.
I am responsible for what happens under my watch, the good and the bad.
So where do we go from here? And do you believe him? That's a big question. Do you believe? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. First of all, I think let's just establish one thing. This is not over, right? There are more documents coming out about this incident. The Assembly is going to release 1,000 pages of documents from the Bridge Authority today. Reporters will be combing through that. There may also, so there's more about this incident than could come out. All the emails, we saw the incriminating emails, but there are more emails that have been redacted that will eventually come out. So there's more on this. There is possible, and reporters are going to be looking into this too, other rogue activity for over the last 4 years on the part of his staff, where they went out and in a vindictive way and a political payback way tried to punish people they considered their political enemies. If there's any other evidence of that coming out, Christie could get caught up on that as well. There are investigations underway, continuing by the State Assembly, and the U.S. Attorney's Office has opened is looking into whether or not they should open up an official investigation, because using public resources for political payback is indeed a crime. And it is overall hard to believe that Chris Christie, with his style, right, something like this could happen, and he did not know about it in his own office. And also hard to believe that this hands-on, he paints himself, right, as this hands-on governor, this problem-solving governor, that the busiest bridge in the world, which is the lifeline for people who live in his state to get to work in New Jersey, could shut down for even an hour, and he would not be all over it. But the fact that it was shut down for 1, 2, 3, 4 days, and all the noise and all the complaints, and he never looked into it and never did anything about it. And then the 2 people he appointed to the Bridge Authority resigned months ago, and he never said, "What the hell's going on? Why did you resign? What's going on here?" Right? I mean, it is hard to believe. But I have to say, based on what he did yesterday, I believe if nothing more comes out, if there's no evidence that Christie in fact knew about it, and so far we haven't seen that, I think he survives politically. Weakened, certainly. There'll be jokes about it. People are not going to forget about it. There'll always be an asterisk there. Remember the George Washington Bridge. But I think he survives politically if, that's a big if, there's no more evidence comes out linking him to what happened.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Maybe I'm being too nice to him. I'll tell you, the emails that I got yesterday from a lot of you said, liar, liar, pants on fire. Did you believe Chris Christie? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour, Chris Christie insisting he was blindsided by his staff. Do you believe him? Here's a. I'm going to not give the names of these email people. These people emailed because they didn't. I didn't ask permission. I didn't give it. But from Los Angeles, a doctor writes in: "Don't believe the bum for a minute. When he heard of the problem 6 months ago, he should have looked into it immediately. Either he is incompetent or he is a cover-your-ass liar."
I do sort of get the impression, like the line from Casablanca, you know, gambling going on here? I'm shocked.
Shocked, yeah.
By the way, if you want to chime in and you can't call in, you could always join us on Twitter at BP Show. Nancy Counter says, nobody believes anyone in his staff would have put out something that devastating unless he personally okayed it. That's right. That's one way to look at it. NC Nomad says, I disagree, Bill. He is toast. He lied when he said he's not a bully, when he has shown that he loves that label. A lot of other comments there. We'll get into some more of those.
More comments coming up. The New York Times, a pretty critical editorial this morning, too. They said even if he didn't know about it, quote, he set a tone that makes, with his staff, he set a tone that makes abusive actions acceptable. Mary in Beckley, West Virginia. Hey, Mary, what do you think?
I think he is guilty of sin.
Really? Didn't believe him at all, huh?
Not one bit.
All right, man. Chris Christie is lucky Mary doesn't live in New Jersey. Hey, thanks, Mary. Good to hear from you. How about our friend Happy New Year to Charleston, South Carolina. Hello, Ike. How are you?
Yeah.
Hey, Happy New Year. Yeah, and at the end of this, I've got a little message for Peter. But, Christie Crispy there, or whatever, Krispy Kreme, if he's like any other good politician, you won't find his fingerprints on any of this. He'll hide the documents and what have you. And for Peter, Flossie May got her new tattoo, says Peter's Garage on her back, and she also got her tooth bleached, and she's looking forward to you coming back down real soon.
I'll be home soon, Flossie. Keep the bed warm for me, honey.
Y'all have a good weekend.
All right. Happy New Year. More of Chris Christie.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Thirty-four minutes after the hour now on a Friday, January 10. Indeed, talking about Chris Christie and whether or not you believe him. A lot of people don't. I think it's, and myself, I think it's very hard to believe that he didn't know about it. Very hard to believe that he would not have taken action the minute he heard about a closure. Even if they had a traffic study, you would think he would be raising hell about what the are you doing having a traffic study during the rush hour in the morning, right? You idiots, why don't you do your traffic study in the afternoon, or why don't you do it, by helicopter looking at taking pictures or something rather than closing the lanes? I mean, I could just see this is something that Chris Christie would raise holy hell about. Instead, he looked the other way. Really? Hard to believe, but we haven't seen the evidence yet. Not everybody believes that he didn't know about it. Here's a man from Wimberley, Texas. Governor Christie's either created an atmosphere where closing the bridge was understood as expected behavior, or he's the worst judge of character with regard to those he picked to be in positions of responsibility. Either way, it doesn't lose. It's that the tone that he set. What a lot of people are saying is, even if he didn't do it, didn't know about it, he set a tone where people thought this is what he would want to happen. And others have talked about, Barbara Buono said, she made a critical comment of the governor at one point, and then she was never invited. She was disinvited from any meeting in the legislature with the governor. He gave orders, she shall not be in the room if he came to any meeting. So, he sort of maybe set the tone for actions like this.
Yeah. Petty political payback.
Payback, right. And that's what Jon Stewart got to last night. He's got a harmonica, and he's looking for the right key, right, to convey Chris Christie's, the tone he set in his office.
Intimidation, vengeance, vitriol. That's not the tone. Chris Christie's dulcet melodic tone. Who could forget what that sounds like? Let me see if I can get his tone just right. Let me see what he's got. Hold on. No, that's not it. Let me see if I go.
Damn, man, I'm governor. Could you just shut up for a second?
No, that's not it. Hold on. Try that one.
Did I say on topic? Are you stupid?
No, not yet. Just haven't found it yet.
Let me tell you something. After you graduate from law school, you conduct yourself like that in the courtroom, your rear end's going to get thrown in jail, idiot.
We're getting there. I think I finally figured out the tone he set. F you sharp. F you!
That's it. Comments?
Yeah,
Peter?
we're on Twitter at BP Show. Michael Peterson says, this dude is all about control, and not having control or not knowing makes him guilty. So either he's knew about it and is guilty or didn't know about it and couldn't control his staff. So that's one comment. Again, at BP Show on Twitter. Don Griffith says, Christie was a Greyhound bus yesterday, running over everyone and throwing them under the bus to cover his butt and not get an explanation from any of them is BS. At BP Show is where we are on Twitter. Find us.
All right, more comments coming up and more calls coming up. Paul is in Benton, Pennsylvania. Hey, Paul.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Hi.
I was wondering, is he and his staff ever going to be held responsible for the wrongful death of that woman that died on her way to the hospital? And do you think there would be any criminal charges filed, or at least a wrongful death suit?
I don't know whether it's criminal or civil, but that is one of the things they're looking into, Paul. I know, and that's one of the things on the U.S. Attorney's desk. It could possibly involve the Department of. There are federal agencies involved, and I think it's a federal crime to use resources, certainly on a bridge like that. The Department of Transportation may be involved, certainly the Department of Justice, but that's all. I'm not announcing anything. That's all speculation right now. It's possible. We do know the U.S. Attorney, and remember Chris Christie. The sweet irony here is that Chris Christie could be under investigation by the same office that he once headed before he became governor. But the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, that for that region, has said that they are opening a preliminary inquiry to see if there's any basis for moving forward with a federal indicting him for or members of his staff for violation of federal law. Aki is in Hammond, Louisiana. Hey, good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey.
I don't believe Christie, but you want to find a telling grace that will find out how guilty Christie is.
Yeah.
Is how the golden parachutes open up for the staff that he got rid of. Nobody falls on their sword for no reason. There's going to be some, quid pro quo for this.
Boy,
So
you know what?
everybody-
I'd be amazed if he gave that woman, Bridget Ann Kelly, any golden parachute going away. But that'd be
Well,
worth
not
it.
for him. The next job. Scooty Liberty didn't get the job with the government. Then he got a hired white shirt attorney firm to give him a job. So whatever jobs they get after, they still have access to the government. They still have the threats to power. They can always influence and call people. That's what doesn't lobbyists do.
Yeah. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. It's her and Bill Stepien. He is a political consultant who ran Christie's campaign and was slated to become the next Republican state chair of New Jersey and to do to be Christie's consultant as head of the National Republican Governors Association. And Christie said, no longer, he won't get those jobs.
If he's as mad as he acted like he was yesterday, there will be no golden parachutes. If he's genuinely as mad as he tried to
Yeah, I would agree.
convey
Hard for
yesterday.
me to believe he'd be helping those people out after what he said yesterday. Ed in Clarksville, Indiana. Hi, Ed. Believe
Morning,
him?
guys.
Do you
How
butting
y'all
him?
doing? My comment is, if I demonstrated on that bridge, would I be charged with domestic terrorism? And I think shutting down a major thoroughfare is domestic terrorism to me. I'm really sensitive about it,
Well, I think I don't think that's an abuse of a phrase. I think that's what it was. And there were, tens of thousands of people, right, who were affected by that. It's I read that somewhere yesterday. The busiest bridge in the world, right? And you just you shut that down and joke about it and laugh about it, and that's what gets me. That when this happened, that Christie, again, didn't immediately demand an investigation, demand a meeting with the Port Authority to say, what the hell are you doing shutting this bridge down?
Right.
Instead, he didn't do anything. He looked the other way. Not only that, he joked about it and laughed about it and ridiculed the whole thing as being a big deal and accused the media of sensationalizing the whole thing. So after all of that behavior, I come back to it's very, very hard to believe that either he didn't know about it or didn't set the kind of tone where the people who worked for him thought this is exactly what Chris Christie would want us to do because we've done stuff like this before and he loved it. Now, again, that's not evidence, right? That's not the smoking gun. That does not connect him directly to this event. And until we have something that does, I still say I think Chris Christie politically survives. A lot weaker. It's Drudge. The Drudge headline this morning is "Road to White House Closed." So people are I think everybody's saying he's not out of the woods yet. We'll be talking more about Chris Christie at the top of the next hour, taking more calls on it too, and we'll get Susan Paige's take on Chris Christie. When we come back here, I'll talk to Susan Paige, Washington Bureau Chief of USA Today.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, after suffering through 2 long weeks of almost nothing going on in Washington, man, this week was a good payback, man. There's a lot to talk about this week. We loved it, and so did Susan Paige, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today, joining us for her Friday visit to the Bill Press Show. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, Bill.
And how exciting it was to walk into the White House this week and find you lurking on the premises there. You were interviewing Dan Pfeiffer, communications. Well, he's special advisor now, I guess.
Senior advisor.
Senior advisor to the president. What'd you guys talk about?
We talked about Bill Gates, about Bob Gates's memoir, and we talked about the State of the Union address, and we talked about extending unemployment benefits at Battle. And I'll tell you, we talked about one more thing he mentioned. He mentioned a group called the Originals. Do you know what that refers to?
No.
The Originals is apparently the phrase used inside the White House for that group of people who were working for Barack Obama on the first day of his 2008 presidential campaign and are still at the White House today. And guess how many people fall in that category?
6.
3.
Oh, really? Wow. Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Okay, Valerie Jarrett?
Very good.
Dan Pfeiffer, one of them?
Yes. And Elisa?
Mastromonico.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Is that right? No kidding. Yeah. Whoa.
So that's a very, elite group.
Yeah, because Axe would have been one of them, right? And he's gone.
Right.
Yeah, just trying to think. Gibbs, I guess, maybe.
There were a lot of people up until, I think, the re-election.
Right.
But then a lot, it's exhausting to be in those White House jobs. It's not surprising that the number of people who you want to stay working at that kind of pace starts to dwindle.
So what are they saying, to you that you can tell us about the Gates memoir? Are they worried about it? Did they have any idea that this was coming?
Well, Dan Pfeiffer said to me pretty much what Jay Carney was saying in the briefing to everybody, which was praising Gates' service, trying to kind of minimize the allegations, the account that's in his memoir. He did say one other thing that kind of related to the whole idea of the people who have been there for a long time. After we had talked about Gates, I'd asked him about how the rhythm of the White House is different now as you go into the 6th years compared to earlier years. And he said one difference is if that memoir had come out or something like that had happened early on in the administration, they would be running around like chickens with their head cut off, he said. They'd be very concerned. They'd be obsessed with what the press was saying. He said now, after 5 years in office, they have a sense of what's going to really be a problem over the long term and what's not, and what's noise and what's signal, and that they see this as noise, and it's made them worry about it less. Now, maybe some of that is spin, but I think there's probably some truth to that, too.
Yeah. The one way they did respond, of course, was bucking up Joe Biden, right?
Yes. We have never seen Joe Biden at the White House in so many different ways than the day after that story came out.
Yeah, I think they really felt offended by that, and I think Joe Biden did as well. Now, did you talk to him at all? I was surprised this week that Wednesday we had the 50th anniversary of the War on Poverty, and there was not one peep about it from President Obama. No news conference, no...
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. He put out a written statement, but that was it.
Yeah.
I thought they missed an opportunity there. Did you expect more? Or was...
That's so interesting because, of course, the president is talking all the time about income inequality.
Exactly.
Which
right.
is very much related to the challenges of the war on poverty. Bill, that's a great point. I hadn't kind of picked up on that omission, and I don't. Why do you think that they did it that way?
Unless then, I was talking to someone about that, and they said, "Have you ever heard him ever mention the word LBJ?" Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe I for whatever reason, but if you think about it. Minimum wage, right?
Yes.
Unemployment insurance.
Right.
Income inequality.
Yeah.
Poverty zones. Unearned income tax credit. All of the things the president has been talking about really do fit under that umbrella of the war on poverty. So I thought it was a missed opportunity, right, to pull them all together and say, LBJ was right, but we got to do more, and here's our, if you will, 21st century war on poverty.
Yeah. I do think that LBJ gets undercredited.
Totally.
And a lot of that, I think, is that all those domestic achievements get overshadowed by the Vietnam War. Which was defined the end of his presidency. But when you look at that period from 1964 to 1965, the number of major landmark civil rights legislation and social safety net legislation that got passed is astounding.
Yeah, I have to say, if you here we are, kind of historians, but the two presidents I think that get underrated for their domestic achievements, right?
Yes.
Are LBJ and Richard Nixon.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Because Nixon, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the Environmental Protection Agency.
So there's a lesson there that you don't want to screw up big time in some other way because people won't notice the good things that you did.
Now, speaking of screwing up big time, have you ever seen a political performance to match that of Chris Christie yesterday? Huh? 107 minutes, but did he pull it off? What do you think?
I thought that the first 30 minutes, he was pretty pitch perfect, right?
Yeah.
He was apologetic. He took responsibility. I thought by the 106th minute...
Enough already. He was putting the bully mask back on.
Yeah,
again, huh?
and you know, when you have to say, I am not a bully,
Right.
that is probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, could he recover from this? Of course. We've seen politicians recover from worse.
Right. Unless there's more.
Unless there's more. Unless he lied yesterday.
Exactly. If he lied yesterday, he is toast.
Yeah.
But there's no evidence of that. I thought it was an incredible performance.
Yeah.
A Chris Christie that we've never seen. A side of him we've certainly never seen before. Will the real Chris Christie stand up? Right?
The real Chris Christie will be back, I think. You know?
Yeah, and it won't take long.
Yeah,
all right.
exactly.
Hey, Susan, so great to do a little roundup with you again this week. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, have a great weekend. All right, Susan Paige, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, top of the next hour, we'll talk to the political editor of Buzzfeed, about the Christie scandal. And then the Federal Trade Commission, their assistant director, talking about diet fads getting slammed by the feds this week. Peter.
The Center for Responsive Politics did a study. They took a look at what kind of money members of Congress are making. And out of the 534 current lawmakers on Capitol Hill, 268 of them are millionaires. That is the first time that the majority of members of Congress are millionaires.
As they say, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. These are the guys that we are counting on fighting for the middle class.
What war on poverty?
Yeah, exactly.
They did all that hard work last year, too.
Yeah,
Let's not forget.
Right. They certainly earned it.
Yeah. If they got paid, depending on what they produced, they'd be paupers.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hello. Happy Friday, good friends and neighbors. Great to see you this morning. It is Friday, January 10. Can you believe it? And here we go with another Bill Press Show, rounding up the news of the day, wherever it's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe, telling you all about it and taking your calls and getting your comments online. Yesterday, President Obama making good on a promise that he made in his State of the Union address to create what he calls promise zones, areas of economic activity where federal agencies work with local and state agencies to try to turn around the economy in 5 different areas of the country. Were selected as the first promise zones. They are in Los Angeles, San Antonio, Texas, Philadelphia, the Choctaw Indian Nation in Oklahoma, and southeastern Kentucky. Again, launched yesterday at the White House, but most of the attention, of course, was on Trenton, New Jersey, where Governor Christie came out and apologized for the actions of his staff in closing down the George Washington Bridge, 2 lanes of it, in primetime traffic for 4 days in a row last September. He insists still that he knew nothing about it, but he fired his deputy chief of staff. He fired his chief political director, and he vowed to cooperate with ongoing investigations by the State Assembly and by the U.S. Attorney's Office. And, of course, he once led that U.S. Attorney's Office. It ain't over yet, but for the time being, Christie has escaped to survive again and fight another political battle in the days ahead. All of that coming up. You're going to want to talk about it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Our news roundup right here Friday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww. You should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
On your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Christie says, I am not a bully. When you have to say you're not a bully, you're a bully.
Yeah, you're probably a bully.
Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? Friday, January 10. Great to see you today. Welcome to the Bill Press Show here on your local progressive talk radio station, here on Free Speech TV, and here on our video stream at TawkrTV. Great to see you this morning. What a busy day. What a fun day, because we got lots and lots to talk about today. Lots going on here in our nation's capital. That's where we're coming from, our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., bringing you the news of the day and seeking your comments and inviting your comments by phone, by Twitter, on Facebook. The phone, of course, 866-55-PRESS. On Twitter, at BP Show. And on Facebook, at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Good to see you this morning and our whole team here, rounding out the week as we get ready to go into the weekend. Not quite yet, another 2 hours. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello.
Hi there.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. One thing, we'll know what movies to see this weekend, because we're going to visit with Ann Hornaday, who's a movie critic for the Washington Post, a little bit later. There's lots of good stuff out there right now.
There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So much stuff.
And she's actually seen all movies coming out today.
Nice.
So it should be very good.
I think I'm going to go see Wolf of Wall Street this weekend.
Really? I've decided I'm not going to go see it. I do not have 3 hours for that movie.
It's a long time. I've seen a couple of 3-hour movies that were worth it, and who knows? Look, it's Martin Scorsese, so you know.
I know, but and also
I'll give it a shot.
What I've read is that the critics liked it, but the audiences hate it. So, yeah, forget it.
Yeah.
Alicia Cruz here, standing by. Take your calls. Thank you, Alicia. And what's his name? No. Oh, boy.
Here comes the dance.
Well, see what happens when you piss him off?
Well,
he leaves, he turns off the lights.
He walked out.
Oh, man.
All right.
Sip, it's okay, buddy. Come back.
Cyprian Boulding, our videographer, he hasn't been here 5 years. But if he's been here 5 years, then we'll give him a microphone, right? But other than that, we just wave.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
How about it? You know what? President Obama, he's gearing up for that big speech on the reforms that he believes are necessary for the NSA. Look, we know right now he's not going to go as far as we want him to go, which is probably shut down the NSA, stop all their phone collection activity. But he met with members of Congress yesterday. He's been meeting this week, spending a lot of time with his senior staff, putting that together. I expect that this speech is going to come next week. Today there's a meeting at the White House with leaders of the high-tech industry. The president's not involved. It's the president's staff involved in that. But, you know, what is still floating out there is what are we going to do about Edward Snowden? Because we wouldn't be having this whole conversation if it were not for the fact that Edward Snowden, whistleblower, performed a great public service. Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, jumped into that yesterday. He's been one of the most critical voices about the NSA. And he's the only one I know in the entire Congress who has stood up to defend Edward Snowden.
If you want to throw the book at Snowden, I think it's a little hard to say, oh, but we're not going to do anything about, James Clapper lying to Congress.
Yeah, great point. We know James Clapper, Director of National Intelligence, when Ron Wyden, Senator from Oregon, asked him point blank, are you collecting data? And he told him the day ahead of time he was going to ask him that question. He said, not word for word, but he said, are you collecting data on millions of Americans in any way whatsoever? And Clapper said, absolutely not, Senator. And he lied through his teeth. And anybody else would be in jail for perjury right now. They'd certainly be charged with perjury. And James Clapper walked, and it is a disgrace. It's an outrage, and I hope Rand Paul just keeps beating that drum. Coming up, as I said, we're going to talk movies a little bit later in the hour. The head of the American Federation of Government Employees, David Cox, President David Cox, will be here in studio with us. We'll kick off this hour by talking to a big reporter from Buzzfeed about what the buzz is in New York about Christie. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. The Washington football team now has a new head coach.
How about that? Yeah.
They made the announcement yesterday. Jay Gruden will
Not one of the
inherit
guys we talked about, right?
No, not really.
Yeah.
There were a couple of names that were floating around out there early. His sort of floated in a little bit later, and they apparently had a really good meeting with him. He is, he had a lot of success in the Arena Football League, and then he was the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. They were eliminated from the playoffs last weekend, so he's free to now come and coach for Washington. He's 46 years old. He got a tweet yesterday from Robert Griffin III welcoming him to the team, and it's an interesting hire. It's kind of a weird hire, but we'll see what happens.
All right. Rots of Ruck. You still got to deal with Dan Snyder.
Exactly. Butter is back, and it's coming back with a vengeance. Bill, I don't know if you knew this, but the average American
I didn't know butter went away.
Consumes 5.6 pounds of butter each year. Pounds of butter. 5.6 pounds of butter.
Is a pack of butter four little segments? Is that a pound?
I don't think that's is it a pound?
I think it's a pound, isn't it?
Hell, I don't know.
Usually you buy butter, they're four.
I use nothing but bacon grease, so I wouldn't know. I'm kidding. But it's 25% rise in butter usage in the last 40 years is what's going on. So there was a little trend of everybody's using margarine, and then they realized that margarine is not good for you. So now people are using butter again.
I'm all for it. Man, I love cooking with butter and olive oil.
Yeah.
Right? So
there you go. And this is one way to increase your food sales. Hapa Sushi in Colorado put out a
pot sushi.
Hapa Sushi.
But it's in Colorado.
Well, it is. No, well, this is the point. They have a marijuana sommelier. They're telling people in Colorado what strains of weed to smoke and what dishes they should order when they come in. And they don't sell the weed in their restaurant, but they're saying if you go and hit your weed store and you load up on your ganj, smoke this, and then come in and eat our sushi. For example, if you wanted to get their shrimp, they advise you to smoke some Pakistani Kush. If you want to get their honey miso salmon, get some sour OG. If you want to get the katsu curry, you should load up on Blue Dream. All different strains of pot.
Or you take your sushi to go, and then you pick up your sushi.
Yeah.
Then you go pick up the pot to go with it.
Take and bake. You know
what
I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
So there you go.
Yeah,
I love that idea.
I love that. No, I do too.
It's a little silly, but I mean, hell.
I think other restaurants are going to be
have fun with it.
I think other restaurants are going to follow. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. With our New York steak, we recommend.
Yeah. A little sour diesel, Granddaddy Perk, AK-47, load up. No, I'm sorry, I've heard. And
well, let me just say, from what I've seen, if I walked into a pot store in Colorado, I would not know what the hell. It's not just, hey, I need some pot. No, you've got 50 choices.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's a pastry shop on top of it.
It's like artisan weed now.
Yeah, exactly. No. Yeah. Or some of these microbrews are just too many to choose from.
Exactly.
Right? Like there are too many cable channels.
Right.
So you need a sommelier.
Have fun trying them all out. I mean, hell, you might as well have fun with
it. Way to do it. All right, down to more serious stuff. It was a bravura performance yesterday up in Trenton. Everybody waiting to see how the bully was going to handle this. Christie came out. He was a Christie we have never seen before, and he started off. The big question, we asked this question yesterday morning. Do you think he could actually, is it in his DNA to apologize? Here's how he started.
I come out here to this office where I've been many times before, and I come out here today to apologize to the people of New Jersey. I apologize to the people of Fort Lee, and I apologize to the members of the state legislature.
And he spent the next 106 minutes just about apologizing. Katherine Miller is a political editor for Buzzfeed, joining us on our news line this morning. Hi, Katherine. Good to have you with us.
Hi, good morning.
Did Christie manage to put this scandal behind him yesterday?
Probably not. This is, no matter what, no matter how he performed yesterday, it's no doubt that this is a much more difficult place for him today than it was a week ago. The press conference probably handled everything as best as you probably could. It was a pretty deft performance in a lot of ways, but it really upped the stakes yesterday. He was very specific about how he heard about these things. He denied any knowledge, any involvement in all these things in terms of closing the bridge lanes and all these things, which creates, it in certain ways absolves him, but it creates a very high standard now if something comes up, now if something turns up in these investigations, or as part of now there's going to be a class action suit, he's in big trouble.
And so this is certainly not the end of the story, correct?
Correct.
So where does the story go now? I mean, what is still open in terms of, and there may be other rogue activity as people are talking about it, but in terms of the bridge closing, what?
In terms of the bridge closing, there is currently a U.S. District Attorney's investigation into why the lanes were closed and how that happened. The FBI, their public corruption unit, will be assisting that. Apparently, that was news yesterday. So there will be some sort of resolution of determining how this happened. If he had any knowledge of these emails, that will probably be part of that investigation. So there will be something very specific to this particular case. in terms of like other things that surround this, there's a shakeup with their staff. They fired basically two close advisors yesterday. So going forward, it's going to probably look very different from their office and how they handle things, just because they're changing staff from how they've operated for the past few years.
And also, there's the continuing legislative investigation, correct?
Correct.
And I saw today that there are 1,000 pages of documents that are going to be released from the Bridge Authority. And then there are all those emails. The emails we saw were pretty incriminating, but many emails were redacted by the attorneys for the people involved as well. Will we ever get to see the full email exchange?
I'm not sure, personally. It'll probably be part. When you have a federal investigation, it's pretty like things come out of a federal investigation.
Yeah.
These emails that were released were part of the original investigation, and as they get more into the investigation, we may not see them for a while, but we probably will see more out of it.
What is the
if there is more?
Yeah. What is the thinking among the reporters there who have covered Christie? And I thought it was interesting yesterday. Obviously, for most of the time that Christie's given news conferences in that room, right, it was just the handful of reporters who cover him in the governor's office. He knew them all by name, called on them all by name. It was almost like a club there, right? What is the thinking among them, the ones that you've talked to and your people, on whether he survives this politically? Because obviously he's now head of the Republican Governors Association. We know he's looking at 2016, and people are looking at him for 2016. The Drudge headline this morning, right, you've probably seen it, is the road to the White House closed? People think it is or not?
Well, the first thing in the interim that's going to be a big thing for him is he'll be able to say now going forward, I answered all of your questions. He took 90 questions yesterday. He talked for 106 or 107 minutes. He'll be able to kind of brush off questions in the immediate future to a certain extent. I answered all of your questions.
Right.
I talked forever. Going forward, this is sort of the double-edged sword of being Chris Christie, which is you're in the New York media market, which is the biggest media market there is. You're getting tremendous coverage, especially with the kind of outsized personality that he has. And it's probably never a good thing politically for you to be the likely Republican frontrunner and covered locally by the New York Times. That's just going to be a very difficult proposition for you.
Sure. It's a lot easier if you're in Austin, Texas, right?
Correct. How much coverage would we have of the GW? The GW Bridge, in terms of, apparently it's the busiest, they say it's the busiest bridge in the world, or like the busiest bridge in North America. I guess you wouldn't really have like a parallel for that in other parts of the country, but if this were happening in, Texas or Florida, how much would we be hearing about it right now? It would probably be a big story, but not wall-to-wall, TV coverage.
It also has to do with the fact that he's such an entertaining guy. I mean, he's just got to be a lot of fun to write about and cover. Like or not, I mean, that's just how it is. So, I mean, people were really chomping at the bit to talk about this.
Well, it's certainly not over, and we'll see if that other shoe drops. That's what everybody's wondering this morning. Catherine's going to keep people like you and me busy for a while anyhow, and that's why we like a scandal like this. Thanks so much for joining us, Katherine Miller, political editor at the Buzzfeed, buzzfeed.com, of course. And the question to all of you is, you saw it, you heard him. He says he was blindsided. He said he knew nothing about this until he finished his workout 2 mornings ago, and he got a call from his communications director. His staff blindsided him, betrayed him. Do you believe Chris Christie? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour. We're going to talk about diet fads and some of them getting busted this week by the FTC. In the next segment, right now, we're talking about Christie. Do you believe him when he said he didn't know a thing? It's hard to believe. You got to admit. Here we go out to Chicago. Let's say hello to Angel. Happy New Year, Angel. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
Oh, Happy New Year. My thing, I'm a Democrat, blue and blue. I'm from Chicago. But my thing is, as long as that other shoe doesn't fall, and this is an example of his administration, completely, I really think, he shouldn't lose his job over this. He should still run for president. It just makes me feel like once somebody makes a mistake or just, and if it's a big mistake, fine, but we just want to grind them up, throw them out as fertilizer and just be done. I'm like, and then with Sebelius, like, everybody wanted her to be fired, and I was like, these are hard jobs. I'm like, give people a chance, you know? And it just seems like you just want to just be done. And I know it's a Republican, and we're like, oh, we love a scandal. But I think, I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like, I don't know. I like him a little bit, just a little bit. So, I
hear you. No, I'm with you. You haven't heard me say he ought to be fired either. I think he survives politically, but I do have to admit, Angel, given his style, right? It's just hard for me to believe that when he heard. Listen, if Rahm Emanuel heard, right, that the major road, I forget what it is, coming in from O'Hare had been closed down for 4 days, down to one lane, Rahm Emanuel would be raising holy hell about that, right? And I just figured that you would expect Chris Christie to do it too, rather than make fun of it, rather than ridicule people, and then say 6 months later, oh, I just found out about it. At worst, he was not on the job. You got to admit that.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, 33 minutes after the hour, Friday morning, January 10. Now, how does this sound? Huh? How about get a gym body without going to the gym? I gotta tell you, man. Sound too good to be true? Well, that's because it is. But that's just one of the claims investigated by the Federal Trade Commission. And they came out with this week and found charged some companies with fraudulent advertising when it comes to diets and weight loss. Headline in the New York Times, weight loss companies charged with fraud. Settlements with the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, will bring consumers $34 million in refunds. Richard Cleland is Assistant Director of the FTC's Division of Advertising Practices, joining us on our news line this morning. Mr. Cleland, good to have you with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, first of all, is there a particular prevalence among weight loss and diet companies to make these outrageous claims?
Well, this is an area that has been rife with fraud for decades, and
that's what it seems to me. Every time you turn around, there's some new fancy diet, right? That's or cream or powder or something. Go ahead.
Absolutely. You know, there's a new fad, a new magic ingredient, something else to sort of lure in very susceptible consumers.
How many companies were involved, and give us an example of some of the products that they were putting out there?
Well, there were 3 new cases filed and settlements with those, and then there was a partial settlement in a fourth case. They covered the gambit, everything from stuff that you sprinkle on your food that's supposed to make you feel fuller faster. There was acai berry. There was cream to rub in your thighs. So it pretty much covered all the different types of gimmicks or fads you could imagine.
Yeah, those berries. I must admit, I was lured in one. I didn't buy any, but I was just curious because I saw that. What are these berries again, and where are they from?
Well, they're, and I think I'm pronouncing this right. I pronounce it as acai berry.
Acai berries, yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't know where they're from.
But I followed them one day because it just said if you put these berries like in your cereal, I don't know, or something, right, and you'll lose a pound a day.
Well, yeah, and these are extracts that are all put in pills, and that's part of the myth here that somehow we're going to be able to solve overweight by putting something in a pill and swallowing it.
Yeah,
and that's not where the problem is or the solution is.
It's BS. I ate like 6 pounds of those berries, and I put on like 4 pounds in a day. It's garbage.
You're looking more trim today,
Thank
Peter.
you.
I was surprised to see L'Occitane. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Among the companies, because they're a pretty fancy boutique chain, right? They were selling this cream.
Yeah, cream to rub on your thighs and parts of your body, and you could supposedly lose 1.3 inches in 4 weeks. And it's all types of companies can get cross the line here. And I think one of the things that was a problem there is that they had a study, but this 1.3 inches was one person out of the whole study, and they were touting that as their.
All right. So what was the punishment for these companies, or the penalty, I should say?
Well, all of the companies and individuals that have settled for us will now be under order going forward, so they won't be able to make any weight loss claims like these without two well-controlled clinical studies to support them.
And they had to pay a fine too, correct?
Well, not a fine. They had to put in some money for consumer redress. Censa, for example, is going to pay in $26.5 million. There's some the lean spa defendants are paying in, and L'Occitane is paying in about, I think, $450,000.
And where's that money go?
This money will be made available for consumer redress. We haven't set up the redress programs yet, but there should be information on our website soon.
Are there class? I see. People, what is the website? FTC.gov. Is that it?
Yes.
So, is there a class action lawsuit? Then the people who filed that will get this money, or anybody who can prove that they use the product?
Well, that's two questions. One is, are there class action lawsuits? And there are some involving some of these defendants, but that's something different than what the FTC is doing. We will make this fund available. Either the companies will provide us with records about the consumers, or we will publish a notice for consumers to file a claim.
How would they prove that they once used this product? Couldn't anybody claim that? I'm just curious.
Well, we have.
I'm curious because I want to get in line.
I was going to say, yeah. You think you want to tell us?
Well, so it will vary. Some of these companies have records as to who purchased the products. In other cases, we may, if it's an unusually high request for a refund, we may request them. The consumer to provide some kind of record. I think in general, we understand that if you bought this product, one of these products 3 or 4 years ago, you may not have a record of that, and but we think the number of fraudulent claims are going to be small, and we also do a fair amount of cross-checking when we get claims. There are certain things that we look for with regard to potentially fraudulent claims.
And I'm thinking of the what was the famous line with milk? Was it "Everybody Loves Milk" or
Got Milk?
No.
Yeah.
Everybody, but there was something at one point. There was something the milk industry was claiming that I think you at the FTC.
There was an ad campaign with regard to milk and weight loss. It's been probably about 4 or 5 years ago now.
Right. So that's my question: is you're looking at fraudulent advertising claims not just for weight loss but across the board, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We look principally at the Division of Advertising Practices focus principally on health claims, and weight loss is just one aspect of that. We look at products that are being marketed for diabetes or heart disease or any other condition that's likely to.
So is there we hear this phrase truth or advertising? Is there a law, truth or advertising law, and a test that people have to meet before they make these claims?
Well, there is. I mean, the law isn't called truth in advertising. It says you basically can't disseminate a false or deceptive advertisement. And with regard to health claims, obviously false claims would fall in that category.
Sure.
But other types of health claims have to have competent, reliable scientific evidence to support the claim before they're disseminated.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about when we say truth in advertising.
All right, now now I'm a little nervous here. What is the role of the media in this? Because if people hear these claims, they're hearing them through bus signs or talk radio shows, right? Or reading them in newspapers or in magazines or online. And so we get this stuff from sponsors, right? What the hell do we know, right? So what is our role and our responsibility here?
Well, I think it's the primary responsibility is to serve your public, and the media outlets, in our view, don't do that if they're disseminating advertising that is facially false to their audience. And we have put out information, various tools that the media can use to spot weight loss ads that have facially false claims in them. So if you're getting an ad, somebody's wanting to place an ad with you that says, "Well, take this pill and lose 30 pounds in 30 days." That's not scientifically feasible. And we think that publishers, broadcasters should reject those types of advertising. We have had a program in place since 2003. It's a voluntary program. We provide this information, and it's been quite successful.
So that's a responsibility on the part, maybe not of individual talk show hosts, but on the part of the people who are buying the ads, right? Or for television or radio stations or whatever, to kind of kick the tires, right, before they accept the sponsor.
We ask them to do that, yes.
I wonder how many do. Yeah.
Well, I think like I said, we put our first red flags brochure for media screening out in early 2003. I think we announced it. A year and a half later, and at the time we had a baseline of about 50% of ads that ran in what we call screened media, television, newspapers, magazines, had some sort of facially false claim in them. Just 2 years later, that number had dropped down to 15%. Now, so I think the program was successful. We have reissued some of the guidance and added some additional things like how to spot false or deceptive testimonials, some new information about using small print disclaimers and how ineffective they are. So, I think overall this is I think the legitimate media has recognized that this doesn't serve their interest either.
Very good. Excellent work. Our tax dollars well spent. Richard Cleland, Assistant Director in the FTC's Division of Advertising Practices. Thanks for your good work, and thanks for joining us this morning.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, I have to take a break here because I've got this potion I wanted to rub on my thighs here, and
it's working already.
Yeah. You look better.
A couple of berries I wanted to pop, and
Let's go take our potions.
And a little stack of pills here, and I'll be 15 pounds lighter when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to discourse the theory.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 12 minutes before the top of the hour, at the top of the next hour, President of the American Federation of Government Employees, President David Cox, here in studio with us to talk about exactly what's going on now with our federal employees. It's a tough time for them given the sequester and the budget cuts, and yet we just heard an example of the great work that federal employees are doing at the Federal Trade Commission, for example, on this cracking down on weight loss fraud. Speaking of frauds, no, I shouldn't do that. But transition, got to come back and talk about the big story of the day, of course, and so many of you want to talk about it. So we're glad to take more of your calls right here at 866-55-PRESS about Chris Christie. And the big question, you heard him yesterday, do you believe him? Do you believe him when he said he knew absolutely nothing about the fact that the bridge closure last September was not due to not because of a traffic study, that the bridge closure was political vindictiveness, political payback, triggered by his own staff to get even with the mayor of Fort Lee, New Jersey, Mark Sokolich, who refused to endorse Christie for re-election. Christie insists he knew nothing about that until 2 days ago. Do you believe him? 866-55-PRESS. He started off yesterday a marathon news conference, lasted an hour and 7 minutes. 107 minutes. And started off doing what everybody said he had to do, but didn't expect him to be able to do. Didn't think it was in his DNA to apologize. He did.
I come out here to this office where I've been many times before, and I come out here today to apologize to the people of New Jersey. I apologize to the people of Fort Lee, and I apologize to the members of the state legislature.
And then he went, and I apologize to you, and I apologize to you, and I apologize to
you get an apology, and you get an apology, and you get an apology.
Right down the line. A contrite Chris Christie. He fired his deputy chief of staff, Bridget Ann Kelly, and he fired his chief political consultant, Mr. Bill Stepien, and said, from now on, I'm going to cooperate with any investigations, and I'm sorry. Do you believe him? Peter, comments?
Couple comments.
So many comments flooded.
Yeah, on Twitter, at BP Show. Karen says, I believe Chris Christie as much as I believe the reason Liz Cheney dropped out of her race. Which,
that doesn't give him much credibility.
Imzadi asks, what happened to the buck stops here, Chris?
Well, he did say, we fired them, but I'm ultimately the one responsible. It's to me, what's the hardest to believe is that this guy who is so in charge heard that the busiest bridge in the world, the most important way that people in New Jersey get into New York to work, was shut down even for an hour, let alone for 4 days, and didn't do anything about it.
Right.
Craig is calling from Winslow Township, New Jersey resident. Do you believe him, Craig?
No, I do not. This whole thing that has come to light is indicative of what it's been under the Christie administration. I was a 25-year employee in the Department of Corrections, and what has happened, we were summarily, us as department heads for recreation programming, were all summarily dismissed without any real recourse, displaced for about a year and a half, and brought back at $30,000 deductions on salary, and where we used to be able to table and chair issues, no longer avowed in the department, and I could just see this has been a long time coming. So I'm glad that this has come to light, and hopefully it will lead to a widespread internal investigation as well on departmental policies.
Well, Craig, you make a very good point that some others have made too. Is that the staff, even if Christie didn't know that he created an atmosphere where this kind of a behavior was acceptable, or maybe even expected. And people are saying that there are other examples of this kind of rogue activity on the part of his staff. We'll see if any of those come out and whether Chris Christie was involved in any of those. One thing, just very quickly here, Barbara Buono, who ran against him, right, and she was the state senator, she points out this was sort of payback to Mark Sokolich, the mayor of Fort Lee, was kind of Christie's style. This is a political payback that she received as a member of the state Senate.
He told the Senate president he would not meet with me, and so they would have leadership meetings, and I was not invited, ever.
So after that one comment,
correct,
you were not allowed into meetings?
Correct. It's not unusual. It's not unusual. He's very thin-skinned.
She said something critical about him, and he said, anytime I come to a meeting, she will not be in that meeting.
It's his style.
That is Chris Christie's style, and maybe this is the indirect result of that style, or if something else comes out, maybe the direct result. What's the president up to today? I'll tell you when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Escher, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms: cubism, symbolism, futurism, constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Kritikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
All right, get ready to go. Hour number 3 coming up. Hey, we hate to lose you on Free Speech TV, but it ain't our fault. But we have an alternative for you. Our good video stream at TawkrTV, TAWKRTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. We're going to talk to the head of the Federal Employees Union, David Cox about how bad it is these days for federal employees. And then we'll go to the movies with Ann Hornaday from the Washington Post. Hour number 3 coming up. Stay with us.
Bill Press Show.
In the next hour, very important, we're going to be talking with the president of the American Federation of Government Employees here in studio with us, President David Cox. And then we'll take a look at the movies for this week with Ann Hornaday from the Washington Post. The president and the vice president get their daily briefing this morning, and then the president's going to spend the entire day with senior staff talking about NSA, our intelligence gathering, and what changes ought to be made. Looking forward to, or getting ready for, that big speech he promised in January, which I think will come next week. Our press briefing with Jay Carney today at 12:45. Hour number 3 coming up. Stay right here with the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
I am not a bully. That's what Christie says. And, you know, when you've got to say you're not a bully, you're probably a bully. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you this morning. It's Friday, January 10. And this is the Bill Press Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours. We're coming to you live, coast to coast, all the way across this country on your local progressive talk radio station. And for those of you who prefer actually to see the show rather than just listen to the show, of course, our video stream's available on YouTube at TawkrTV. That's youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. On this Friday, January 10, a lot to talk about, and we'll bring you up to date on all the news here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe, and most importantly, give you a chance to let us know what you think about it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Our entire team in place this morning. Peter Ogburn around here somewhere. Elisa Murphy there at the controls. Hello,
Good
Lisa.
morning. Happy Friday.
Yep. Alicia Cruz has the phones covered, ready to take your calls with Cyprian Bolding, keeping us looking good on the video stream, again, at youtube.com/TawkrTV. A lot of talk about budget today, about a sequester today. Federal employees caught right in the crossfire with all of these decisions. I think they get a bad rap, and so I wanted to find out more and talk with you more about their good work and what the challenges they're facing today. And nobody better to tell us about that than the president of the American Federation of Governmental Employees, or AFGE, President J. David Cox, who joins us in studio this morning. President Cox, nice to see you.
Good morning, Bill. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for coming in this morning. Tell us a little bit about AFGE. First of all, how many members?
AFGE has right at 284,639 members as of December 31st.
Yeah, active members, right?
Active members, yes, sir.
In all branches, federal government?
All branches, from Social Security, Department of Veterans Affairs, Homeland Security, Department of Defense, TSA, you name it, we represent them.
I do think that government employees get a bad rap. Everybody, bitches about the bureaucrats or complains about the bureaucrats. Just a half an hour ago, we were talking to he may or may not be a member, I don't know, from the Federal Trade Commission, the assistant director of the Federal Trade Commission, who was talking about all the work that they're doing to uncover fraud in advertising for food products and for weight loss products and everything. And people forget these are the guys who are on the job day in and day out doing the people's work, right?
Very much so, Bill. At this very moment, there's a nursing assistant at the bedside of some World War II veteran that, served this country and fought the Nazis and fought the people that would have made the world a different place. As that person's taking their last breath, that nursing assistant is there with them and their family. There's someone on the border today with it cold, hot, wherever they're at, protecting the border of this country. There's the transportation security officers at the airport today screening passengers. And while sometimes people complain about that, since we have federalized the transportation security officers, there has not been a successful hijacking in this country, and the American public are flying safe.
Yeah, no, good point. What part of the federal government was your service?
I came out of the Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm a registered nurse by profession.
I got it, yeah. I have a son who's a nurse practitioner.
All right.
It's a great profession. And more men getting into that.
Clearly, when I first went into it many years ago, there was less than 1% of all nurses were men. Now we're moving probably between 8 and 10% of the nurses of this country are men, and the number continues to grow.
Is there any way that some people have the impression, right, that these federal employees are living high on the hog? What's the reality? Is it do you know the average salary or average pension benefits?
Most federal employees' take-home pay is right at $500 a week. That is not a great deal of money, and particularly if you live in the Washington, D.C. area, that is no money at all. No matter where you live, that is not a great deal of money.
Right.
Federal employees are not.
I mean, so what? I'm just doing some quick math. That's about $30,000 a year.
Between $30,000, maybe a little more than that. But and also you have to remember, as of January 1 this year, all brand new federal employees are paying additional money into their retirement plan. 4.4% of their salary right off the top is now going in for retirement. And it's not to fund their retirement. It was to fund other government programs. It's the only group of employees in this country that continue to have their taxes increased.
Right. So the money, wait a minute, more money for the retirement, fine, but it's not going into the retirement
It's not going
plan?
to the retirement at all, Bill. No. It increased again this January with what Congress did with the Budget Control Act for the 2-year process was increase the retirement contribution of all new federal employees as of January 1, 2014. They did the same thing January 1, 2013. There's now a 3-tiered retirement process in the federal government. The end result, everyone would draw the same amount in their retirement. It's just all new hires are paying much, much more into a fully funded system, and the money is taken to fund the government in other areas.
So if I'm looking for a career, young people, we're looking for a career in whatever field of endeavor that I'm interested in. If it's $35,000 a year, why do I want to work for the federal government?
Most
when I
agencies
could make so much more, maybe in the private sector.
Most agencies are beginning to struggle with recruitment and retention of employees simply because there's been a 3-year pay freeze, and now federal employees are getting a grand total of a 1% pay increase as of the first of this year. And at this point, the blue-collar workers, the wage-grade employees that's still tied up in Congress, they haven't even gotten the 1% raise thus far this year. We do believe that Congress and the administration will work and correct the problem, but that 1% is probably going to be delayed on them. So it's a difficult situation, but I think people that work for the federal government are very dedicated people. They wanted to be civil servants. I wanted to work at the VA. I wanted to care for veterans. That's what I wanted to do. The men and women that had served this country, that made this the best place in the world for us to live, that give me the right to be on the radio with you and we can have freedom of speech and that we can talk. I wanted to take care of those men and women.
And so it is really a form of public service.
Yes, sir. It clearly is. If you want to get rich, you're not going to go to work for the federal government. There's a sense of well-being. And some people talk about federal employees having a retirement plan. Federal employees have taken less pay all through the years to have a retirement plan, things of that nature. But
even their retirement plan is not...
It's very minimal. It is very, very minimal. Most federal employees, their retirement is about $1,000 a month. That is not a great deal of retirement money.
Even that and Social Security are not not paying for.
You're still going to be in the food stamp line that does not exist.
Yeah, no, exactly. So how has this sequester impacted federal employees?
It's impacted on, number one, federal employees. Many of them had 6 or more days of furlough last year. We had the government.
Which meant they didn't get paid for those days.
They did not get paid, followed by a government, I prefer to call it a lockout. The federal government locked us out of our jobs.
The government shut down?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We wanted to go to work. Agencies have less money, so as employees quit, leave, whatever, the federal government, they're not replacing them. There's still the same amount of work to be produced, less people to produce the work. There's not the amount of money for training, resources, all those things that make for a successful organization. I frequently hear, let's make the federal government more like the private sector. Private sector trains its employees. They invest in technology. They invest in having proper supplies and safety, all those type things. The government has less and less resources, so therefore there's less and less people to accomplish more and more work.
Are federal employees allowed, I don't know the answer, are federal employees allowed to go on strike?
No, sir, they are not. They are not. The laws
so
of
you've
this...
got all the benefits of being a union except, right, you can't flex your muscle, I guess, right?
Federal employees cannot strike. We cannot bargain wages and benefits as part of the collective bargaining process. We have to bargain that with Congress. They pass the laws that govern salary, benefits, things of that nature. We bargain about working conditions, conditions of employment, personnel policies and practices.
So your boss, right, is the Congress, or is it the President of the United States?
We say it's the President of the United States is the ultimate boss because the President is obviously over all the federal agencies, appoints the secretaries and various administrators.
But when it comes to negotiating your contracts or negotiating your salaries, it's the Congress, right?
We have to bargain with Congress, lobby the Congress very, very hard.
So it's not automatic, in other words.
I think that's the reason we had a 3-year pay freeze, and now we have got a whopping 1% pay increase after 3 years. And besides that, the retirement contribution has moved from 0.8% to 4.4%. So all new federal employees are suffering a pay decrease, not an increase.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I hear all the complaints about federal employees. I don't know where we would be without them, though. At the same time, I mean, these are services that we do depend on, all of us. Again, whether it's a passport agency, or I mentioned the Federal Trade Commission, or you mentioned TSA, the Capitol Police, around here? I mean, you're on and on and on, right?
Continuously. We don't think much about the fact that at this very moment there are thousands of correctional officers in the Bureau of Prisons that's protecting us from some of the worst criminals in the world. And many of those people are currently locked into a cell block with 150 inmates with one correctional officer. I visited a prison recently in Puerto Rico and one in Seattle, Washington. It was the scariest event of my life.
Really?
To be in there, they took me in, was one correctional officer with 150 inmates in the prison. This officer, they can try to push a button, call on the radio if they get into trouble, but even to get in, it's very difficult. And over the last 2 years, we've had 2 correctional officers murdered on the job simply because there was insufficient staffing in the Bureau of Prisons.
J. David Cox is president of AFGE. That's how you...
Or AFGE.
AFGE, okay. AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees, representing all of the men and women who do such great work for all of us. I think it's time to show them some appreciation and stop just complaining about them. 866-55-PRESS is the target. We'll be right back with President Cox. Your questions, your comments, I'd love to hear from some of you. I know a lot of you out there have either do work or have worked for the federal government. Your thoughts about your working conditions and some of the support that good work that you do and some of the support that you believe maybe you haven't been getting. 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show. is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now, 24 minutes after the hour on a Friday, January 10. We're going to talk about movies in the next half hour with Ann Hornaday. The latest movies coming out this weekend. She has seen them all. She's the movie critic for the Washington Post. Right now we're talking with President J. David Cox, president of the American Federation of Government Employees, or AFGE, about the tremendous contribution that federal employees are making and some of the problems and challenges they're facing today with the sequester and other budget realities. And I guess I should admit, President Cox, that maybe one of my biases here, that I have a son who is a federal employee, works for the National Park Service out at the Point Reyes National Seashore. My son David, our son David, and a daughter-in-law who's married to our other son Mark, who works for the Department of Forestry. So in-house here.
No, that's great. I mean, the parks,
and they do great work.
They do good work. And the National Park Service, I mean, where would we be without the national parks and the national forest? You do have to run the national forest system. Trees are important for this country and the world.
Well, we found out how much we appreciate the national park people when there was the government shutdown.
Yes.
What did people complain the most about? They couldn't go see the Grand Canyon, or they couldn't go to Yosemite, or they couldn't get into parts of the national seashore out in Point Reyes, for example.
Well, or the members of Congress that voted to shut the government down couldn't go to the mall to some of the memorials there, and they wanted to make an issue of it.
Yeah, they shut it down, and then they wanted to complain about federal employees wouldn't allow them in. We were talking during the break about some of the. I mentioned the FTC that we had on the show earlier with their crackdown on fraudulent advertising, particularly in the weight loss area. In terms of food inspection, that's a very important agency and work of some of your members, right?
Extremely important. And the poultry industry, I mean, we eat a lot of chicken in this country.
More chicken than beef.
Yes, sir, that we do.
Yeah.
And there is a move. The poultry industry wants to speed up the lines where an inspector would have to inspect like 175 chickens a minute. That's like over 3 chickens a second that you would have to inspect.
You couldn't even look at them.
No,
that fast.
you couldn't. Also, there's been a move in the industry to say they do not need government inspectors, that the industry could regulate itself and inspect itself. It's all about increasing the profits and moving speeding up the line, moving the industry along. Also, the poultry industry, there's more on-the-job injuries from the workers in that. Being from North Carolina, I have seen women that would be in their early 20s with severe carpal tunnel syndrome, where they were on the line with a knife constantly cutting a chicken all day long in a repetitive motion, things of that nature. So we're opposed to that. We believe that, number one, it threatens the health and safety of the American public, also is dangerous to the workers, and it's impossible to inspect over 3 chickens a second.
Absolutely. So, and that's just one example of all the great work that federal employees do in agency after agency after agency. You can find out more by going to their website at afge.org. AFGE. So go out and hug a federal employee today. President Cox, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having
This
me in.
is the Bill Press Show. Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. At 33 minutes after the hour, it is the Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Brought to you today by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers Union. Put them all together, and you get the SMART Union. Good men and women of the SMART Union under President Joseph Nigro, giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. You bet. And find out more about their good work by going to their website, smart-union.org. Speaking of unions and jobs, the latest job numbers out for the month of December. Breaking news, Peter Ogburn.
This is a very weird report. We're sort of looking at the numbers to get some reaction out. But basically, here's the bottom line. The U.S. economy added 74,000 jobs in December. That's a lot less than they were predicting. The unemployment rate, however, fell to 6.7%.
From 7?
Because so fewer people are actually looking for work now. It's a lot of the economists that are chiming in on it right now on Twitter are just saying what a bizarre report it was. It was 7.3 in October, 7.0 in December, and now 6.7 in December. So you'll probably see this report revised next month is the thinking. But as of now, 6.7% with only 74,000 jobs added.
It's stunning to me that it's only 74,000 jobs. It was 200,000, I believe, in November.
And they were estimating 214.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I thought there would be more hiring in December. Maybe they hired in November to get ready for December?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Zachary Goldfarb, an economist on Twitter at Goldfarb, says, this is what you call a messed up report.
All right. Okay.
We'll see what that means, though.
All right. Speaking of messing up, there's somebody who still has a job this morning. We weren't sure he would still have it yesterday, and that is Governor Christie. It is the biggest story of the day, and we can't go this hour without at least bringing you up to date on what's happening and getting your calls on the big question, which everybody is asking today. Do you believe him? Governor Christie yesterday, an extraordinary performance. At a news conference in Trenton, you know the story. 2 out of 3 lanes on the George Washington Bridge, the busiest bridge in the world, the major thoroughfare artery going in from New Jersey to New York. It's shut down for 2 out of 3 lanes, shut down for 4 days in a row. Last September, there were rumors then that this was political payback by Christie against the mayor of Fort Lee, New Jersey, Mark Sokolich, a Democrat who had refused to endorse Christie for re-election. Up until this week, Christie had been scoffing at those reports, ridiculing those reports, laughing at those reports, accusing the media of sensationalizing it. And then, emails came out as a result of the investigation by the state legislature that one of his top aides, Bridget Ann Kelly, had in fact ordered, suggested, to the Port Authority that they close the bridge in order to create some traffic problems for the mayor of Fort Lee. It came right out of the governor's office. And yesterday, he came out, again, an extraordinary news conference, and did what we never thought Christie could do. He actually apologized.
I come out here to this office where I've been many times before, and I come out here today to apologize to the people of New Jersey. I apologize to the people of Fort Lee, and I apologize to the members of the state legislature.
He apologized to everybody he could think of apologizing to, and he still insists that this all took place. Yes, his aides are the ones who ordered it, and his people he appointed on the Port Authority were the ones who actually put the plan in place to close these lanes 4 days in a row. He still insisted he personally knew nothing about it.
I had no knowledge or involvement in this issue, in its planning or its execution, and I am stunned.
He's stunned. He said he felt betrayed by his top aide. He was heartbroken that these people that he considered family did this without telling him about it. Now, the question again, do you believe him? 866-55-PRESS. And sort of a subset of that question is, does he survive politically after the scandal and after his apology yesterday? I think one thing we can say for sure is this is not the end of the story, because first of all, there could be other information come out about the closure of these lanes. There's an ongoing legislative investigation. There is a possible U.S. attorney's investigation. They're looking into whether or not there's a federal crime here. So more could come out, and if anything comes out that shows that Christie was lying yesterday, then he's toast. He is done, I think, for sure. But even if it's proven that he did not have knowledge of this incident, there's still the fact that Christie, his style, his bullying, did create a tone in that office, or an atmosphere of the office, where this kind of thing was actually maybe expected and even condoned. There could have been other actions like this. People are already coming out. Barbara Buono, who ran against Chris Christie for governor, state senator, said that she was banned from any meetings with Chris Christie by him and his staff when she just made one critical comment about the governor. And then she was the leaders of the legislature were told that if the governor is going to come to any meeting, he insists that she not be part of the room, she not be in the room. So there wasn't, if there's no direct evidence linking Christie to this particular event, is he somewhat responsible just simply because of the bullying tone, if you will, of his office? So not the end of the road for Christie, but I have to say, if the other shoe doesn't drop, if they cannot point directly to his okaying this, knowing about it, not doing anything about it, I think he does survive politically. Weaker, certainly, but he'll be able to eventually put this behind him. Do you believe him? Remember, this is not just a New Jersey scandal. This is a scandal on the part of the governor, who is considered a front runner for the Republican nomination for president in 2016 and is the new head of the Republican Governors Association. Sharon is calling from Kingston, Illinois. Hi, Sharon. What do you think?
Hi. I think his hard-ass attitude, the bullshitting thing, won't play well in Iowa, Minnesota.
Well, it's hard to tell with that style how well it will play. We certainly saw a side of Christie we'd never seen before yesterday. Well, it's interesting. The other thing that's interesting to me is that, and I got into this conversation with a couple of other talk radio hosts tomorrow. People all around the country are interested in the story because Christie is such a big force and a big presence in the Republican Party. This is a story that goes well beyond the borders of New Jersey. Jim is calling from River Grove, Illinois. Hey, Jim, what do you think?
Well, Marty Bill, yes, he should be investigated and continue to be pursued to get out of there because he's trying to curry the favor of right-wing teabagger extremists, and we don't need them in government. So he should go just because of his attitude, which he thinks is going to get him much further.
Well, I don't know that Chris Christie's a favorite of the Tea Partiers either, Jim. Remember, they don't like the fact that they think that he undercut Mitt Romney by buddying up to President Obama after Hurricane Sandy.
But they like this attitude. They like somebody who pushes their weight around. This is what they enjoy. This is what right-wingers understand. They don't understand people, compassion, sharing, protecting. They're not into that. They're into bullying. They're into this extremist view.
Hey, but Jim,
they'll get screwed.
Yeah, but Jim, Chris Christie says he's not a bully, huh? You don't believe him, obviously.
Follows.
All right, got it.
Follows.
Got it, Jim. Let's go quickly out in on WCPT in Chicago. Alan, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
All right. Do you buy it?
I just have one point I'd like to bring up, and I haven't heard it said.
Go.
In Chicago, when we have any major thoroughfare shut down or a bridge, we get notified in the newspapers in advance of it so that people can make arrangements.
Right.
We never shut down a place unless it's a snowstorm or something like that without notifying the people.
Yep, you're right.
And this hasn't been brought up.
That's a very good point, and that was not done at the George Washington Bridge. This was thrust upon the people there 4 days in a row without any advance notice, and then they claimed it was a traffic study, and we find out there was no traffic study. That's an excellent point. Something else in Chicago. If one of those things did shut down without any advance notice, you bet Rahm Emanuel will be raising holy hell about it. And that's what I find hard to believe, that with this reputation that Chris Christie has for being this hands-on, in-your-face kind of governor, that they could shut down these lanes for even 1 hour and he would not be on top of it, not be demanding to know what was going on. And yet it went on for 4 days with all kinds of complaints, all kinds of noise, and he did nothing. That I just find impossible to believe that he wouldn't have looked into it, which makes me believe maybe he did know what was going on. 866-55-PRESS. We'll be back. Go to the movies with Ann Hornaday from the Washington Post.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Perry Luckton's
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. 12 minutes before the top of the hour, Friday morning, January 10. I don't know about you, going into the weekend. Carol and I have already talked about what movie we might want to see this weekend. Don't we all? Well, Ann Hornaday has seen them all. She's a movie critic for the Washington Post, joining us on our news line this morning. Hi, Ann. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
This is a real wealth of good stuff out there these days. At least that's my impression. Both those have been there for a couple of weeks and coming out this week, too, right?
You are so correct. It's been, I haven't seen as strong a year this year in many a moon. It just seems like since September, when I was at the Toronto Film Festival, it just seems like every week we've just had superior stuff to choose from. And
right.
Of course, now it's all kind of, they're all there for people to go see. And the only question is having enough time to get to it all.
Well, somehow you did. Of course, that's your job. I want to ask you about some of the ones that have been out for a couple of weeks, but what is coming up this weekend? What are the new things on the new features on the horizon?
Well, probably the standouts are there's a picture called Lone Survivor coming out by a guy named Peter Berg, and it's based on a true story of a SEAL team that went on a mission in Afghanistan in 2005. And Mark Wahlberg is the nominal star, but it's really an ensemble picture, and it kind of continues this trend that we've seen in recent years, especially, I think, epitomized by Catherine Bigelow and her work, but this kind of boots-on-the-ground approach to the war film, and with sort of dispensing with anything having to do with politics or psychology or subtext. It's really just to put the audience into this experience, and he does a terrific job, and Wahlberg's fantastic, as are his co-stars, and it's a very intense, very violent, very graphic, but it just tells a fantastic, I won't give anything away, but the way that he becomes the lone survivor is really, truly inspiring.
A lot of noise about Meryl Streep and August of Osage County.
Yeah.
I saw it on stage.
Oh, okay.
A long play on stage, but
long play.
But wonderful, wonderful. Does it make it on the screen, big screen?
Well, I think if you liked the play, I would imagine you would feel that it was well served on the screen. John Wells directs, and he opens it up a little bit, but I think that I did not see the play, but I take it was a pretty claustrophobic experience of this family fighting it out.
Oh God, yeah.
In this house in Oklahoma, and he keeps it inside the house for the most part. And like you said, I mean, it's just this blue ribbon cast of actors: Meryl Streep and Julia Roberts. But then we have really terrific supporting performances from people like Margot Martindale and Julianne Nicholson, who may not be household names, but anybody who's familiar with acting, knows who they are, and they're terrific. I mean, I'm not personally such a fan of the writing, but I think that to the degree that you were a fan of the original work, you'd probably feel entertained and engaged by the movie.
I just watched the trailer for it before we started talking to you, and it looks like it might be just a little too close to home after the holidays.
That's right.
Like, no, I think I just saw that movie. It was
there,
going to my
thing.
in-laws for Christmas.
Right, got the T-shirt. Yeah, why do I have to pay $8.50 to see that? I can get it for free at home. No, exactly. It killed me that they were opening at Christmas too. It's like, really?
Yeah.
A lot of talk about Spike Jonze and Her.
Oh yes.
This
is a special movie. This is a really nifty movie. I hope it doesn't get, with all these heavy hitters out there, I feel very protective toward this one because it stars Joaquin Phoenix in the not-too-distant future.
He is so great.
And this is the kind of movie that shows you how great he is because it's such a quiet performance. He plays this very recessive character, very shy, painfully kind of paralyzed in his own life, a passive guy, and so that's hard to act, right? I mean, it's hard to give that any kind of sense of dynamic, and he just nails it, and again, the character that he plays falls in love with his operating system, much like Siri, voiced by, and that's voiced by Scarlett Johansson, whose voice is incredibly alluring, and they just make you believe it. I mean, within minutes, you are in this relationship, you believe it, you don't question it, you go with it, and that is the sign of a great writer and a great director in Spike Jonze. I mean, he puts you in this world and steers you through it with such complete assurance and brilliant taste. I mean, it's just beautifully conceived visually. The whole thing is just an exquisite experience. It's one of those. It's just a really special movie.
Oh, that's a great endorsement.
It's so rare that you see something so different these days.
Yes, you're right.
It looks so kooky and weird.
You're right, because Hollywood's really been avoiding these original stories. So to see real originality like that, you're absolutely right. It should be applauded and supported.
And I got to tell you, I really loved Nebraska and Philomena. Both.
Yes.
Yeah,
Excellent. I know.
Films. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And everybody says, I don't want to go see a black and white movie. Yes, you do.
Oh, this
movie,
one you do.
It belongs in black and white.
It does, and it's so. And somebody else is saying, "Oh, I think I can watch that on television." It's like, no, you want to see it on the big screen because it has that kind of gelatin print, luminosity in that black and white. It's magnificent. I mean, the way that he captures the countryside. The plains, the Midwestern plains.
I know. It's a pretty bleak countryside, and it makes it beautiful.
He really does. He infuses it with a lot of poetry, and there's a lot of humor, and it's very touching. I thought it was a really touching story.
Well, we could go on and on.
We couldn't we? I know. There's so much good stuff.
Hey,
exactly.
And it's great having you with us. Thank you so much, okay?
Thanks for inviting me.
All right, see you at the movies. Right. And I'll be back with a quick parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
If I had a nickel...
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, very quickly, you got to say, whether you like him or not, you got to admit it was a bravura performance yesterday. Chris Christie's news conference. It's still hard to believe, of course, that something like this could be orchestrated out of Christie's office without his knowing about it. And still the big question of why a guy who brags about being such a hands-on governor could let the world's busiest bridge shut down for 4 days and just laugh it off without demanding to know what was going on. But I gotta say, on the question of will he survive, I think that depends. If there's any evidence he was lying yesterday, his political goose is cooked forever. But if not, I think Chris Christie will ride this scandal out. Weakened, but still a force in American politics. We'll see what happens. Forget about Chris Christie. Just go out and have a great weekend now and come back and see us again on Monday.
This is the Bill Press Show.